Welcome to the Awakened Human Podcast, the place to be for highly progressive yet extremely grounded intuitive guidance, energetic support, metaphysical tools, and higher consciousness for highly successful, ambitious, soul-centered visionaries and leaders like you who want to make a global impact and achieve your highest fulfillment by aligning with your soul's true divine agenda and your role in God's plan of lighted creation, and by utilizing your divine gifts, talents, and abilities from the higher realms. We do this by working with the non-physical realms of higher guidance, energy, intuition, and powerful metaphysical tools for healing and transformation. We understand that the real change and transformation that's being called for on planet Earth and in our own lives and our own businesses doesn't come from outside of us, but rather from within. And that the change that we desire to experience in our lives and in our world requires us to change from the inside. I'm your host, Lori Ann Spagna. I'm a best-selling author, spiritual catalyst, intuitive, energy worker, ascension guide, multidimensional channel, animal communicator, visionary, lightworker, and luminary. I have dedicated my entire professional life to helping thousands and thousands of humans and animals all over the world in service and contribution to the light, which is the expansion, the upliftment, the evolution of humanity, to awaken, to uplift, and to align with our true divine source, which exists within each and every one of us. It is my passion, joy, and purpose to share this information, energy, and consciousness with you. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing time with me. Let's get started. Well, hello, you magnificent being. There you are. How are you? Well, I am so glad to be with you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing sacred space with me today. Today, I want to share something that I think is so important on Earth. The title of this podcast is, Who Do You Want to Be? Who do you want to be? So one of the most amazing things about becoming more conscious is that as we become more and more conscious and we start recognizing that ultimately we are all part of one source, and through the process of awakening and healing and energy shifting and becoming more conscious, personal development, I'm a personal development junkie. That's how I started. It wasn't really initially a spiritual journey for me. I was just into the personal development movement and self-growth, right? That's, when I first started, and I knew I was in a lot of pain from childhood, just things that happened growing up in an alcoholic family, where there was alcoholism and drug addiction, that I needed to somehow get better, right? That's where it started. But this is the thing. One of the things that's so amazing about becoming more conscious as we pursue the self-growth, personal development journey, which ultimately all self-growth and all personal development will lead you to a path of spiritual growth and development, because you can't not that eventually is the path. Like, that's where it led me. And this is true, right? Because personal growth, self-growth will ultimately lead you home to source, to spirit, to the divine. Okay, so one of the great things about that is that you start realizing that you are at one with everything and everyone. Everyone and everything is connected. Everything and everyone is ultimately part of one source. You can hear it from me and learn it through your brain, but when you go through this process of real deep transformational work, you will know it for yourself. I used to always say, I'm not a believer, I'm a knower. And I always say, people who are on this journey long enough, we don't just believe, we start knowing. You do have experiences that lead you to direct experience of direct gnosis, directly knowing things. through experience that is beyond, for you, beyond question. I'm saying you, but everyone can go through this in their own unique way, this kind of thing, which is why, sidebar, little distraction here, which I do a lot. It's why a lot of times I have very little patience for like skeptics and cynics, because that energy of skepticism and cynicism and doubt and disbelief is simply, it's a form of ignorance. And it's not a willingness to know. It's not the same thing as curiosity. It's not the same thing as humility. I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Right? That's not skepticism, cynicism. That's just a blocker energy. Those are blocker energies from people who really don't believe and are asking you, essentially, the energetic is prove it to me. And from my direct experience, I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I don't have anything to prove. I don't need to prove anything. Go figure it out for yourself. Right. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I just think once you walk this path, your unique path, you will know it too, because it's available for everybody. It's not withheld from anybody. It's just that we all have our own unique journey. Okay. So that said, let me get back online with aligned. Who do you want to be is the question. So one of the things about coming into alignment and recognizing that you ultimately are part of one source, and ultimately you come into a place of energetic awareness that you're at one with everything. You really are. You can have direct dialogues, conversation, connection with everything and anything. You can be in, this is the law of one. You're at one with all that is. And you can start functioning that way because it becomes just so real that that's really the truth. Everything is part of you and everyone is part of you. But at the same time, this is the sort of dichotomy of this reality. Others have free will choice too. There is individuation, right? So there is duality. There is separatism in the same sense. I know duality and separatism aren't exactly the same thing, but there is a degree of I'm me, you're you. You have your free will that is in accordance with your role and your divine source, and so do I, right? So both are true. Nonetheless, in the space of oneness, you get to decide, who are you? You see, because when you're growing up, the external world tells you who you are. They tell you you're a daughter, you're male, you're a female, you're this age. This is your astrology. This is that's in a slightly more progressed way. When I was younger, my family was constantly telling me who I was through their lens. And by the way, in namology, which is one of the things I love to teach and to share, when someone's name ends with the sound E, usually either with an I or a Y, or it could be with the letter E, it usually means, who am I? They're trying to find out, who am I? Who am me? Who am I? So it was part of my journey to discover the highest truth about who I am and to start to realize we can define who we are. Because when we're younger, this is where I was going with that, we are often told who we are. Well, you're a student. You're a good student. You're a bad student. You're a troublemaker. Like that's at the younger ages, right? Maybe. And then as you get older, like you're pretty, you're not pretty. You're fat. You're skinny. You're too skinny. You're too fat. You eat too much. You're loud. You're trouble. Like people in the world where we grew up, right, would tell us these things. And this has happened to everybody. You're young. You're impressionable. You start believing what you're told about yourself. You're a problem. You talk too much. You're shy. You're all these things, right? And so you take on these personas until you start doing the inner work that helps you really remember the truth of who you are. I'm saying you, but this is anyone on the journey, right? And so as you start to remember the truth of who you are, you recognize this is true. You are an aspect of the divine that is creating yourself. And you just took on all those opinions and judgments of others, definitions from others who told you who you were or what you were or who you were meant to be or who they wanted you to be. You're going to be a dancer. You're going to be the best. I want you to be the doctor. You have to be a doctor. You have to be a lawyer. Like whatever those things are, you know what they are. And you took on those personas And until you do that deep inner exploration, you get to start to realize you can define who you are. And it's not just about what you do either. A judge, a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, a spiritual healer, an energy worker, a channeler, whatever, that, an animal communicator, those are labels too. And those labels are valuable because it helps people understand us. Like I have all those labels, right? But I know those aren't who I am. Those are things I do. And those are services I offer and provide. Talents I've developed, skill sets. But who you are fundamentally is one of the most important questions you can ever ask. And who do you want to be? Maybe just as important, or at least close to just as important, because who you are is you are part of the divine. You are an aspect of the divine that is eternally existing in some way, shape, or form of consciousness. I can go on about that, but that's in a nutshell. You are consciousness itself. And that consciousness is made up of a frequency of energy. And at certain levels, it's even energy, it doesn't exist. But that's a whole other conversation, right? So that's who you are. You may not know that, you may not identify that way, but that is truth. At least in this paradigm, it is. So who you want to be then becomes, I can define who I am. But you have to become that, right? You don't just say, hey, I'm an astrologer, and you have not done anything to be an astrologer, right? By the way, those things will define you very well too. Astrology will tell you who you are, and you're not that. I can promise you, you are more than your astrological chart. Human design will love to tell you who you are and how you function, and they will really believe it. They will box you in. I'm not making human design wrong because it's a tool, just like astrology is a tool, just like numerology is a tool. Numerology will tell you who you are too. I'm just saying you're more than that. Those are just steps along the journey to reveal more to yourself about more of who you are so you can break out of the box of who you once were. But eventually you'll have to break out of those boxes too. Astrology, numerology, human design, on and on. All these little programs that we anagram. Anyone who does the anagram also knows that it can show up different every time you do it. So, okay, where am I going with this? Who you are is you get to define. Now, let me give a little bit of guidance here, if I may. Use it as it serves you, of course. And I want to say that what I'm about to say, I would never suggest that you define who you are based on pleasing someone else or needing someone else, anyone else to approve of you. Because when you're deciding who you want to be, the primary way you might want to consider that is, who do I need to be so that I can truly fall in love with myself? Not from a place of arrogance, not from a place of supremacy, not from false identity or false manipulations of your own self, fluffing your own egoic structure, but truly deciding really from your heart center. And I know you are all mission-driven, heart-centered, amazing, brilliant, fabulous, beautiful beings. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. You decide from the center core of your being, from your heart center, who do you want to be? And those qualities, those ways of being, those attributes, those virtues are going to be based in what you love about you. What makes you feel good more than good about yourself? What makes you wake up in the morning and say, yes, it's great to be me. Yes, it feels so good to be me. Yes, I love who I am, and I love who I'm becoming more and more of every day. I love the way I'm behaving. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself. Now, I can say those things about myself love myself. I'm proud of myself. But it took me a long time to get here, a lot of deep inner work. And I know it's not like you can just say, okay, this is who I am. But by starting to consider who you truly desire to be, and then start becoming it, that means you have to behave in accordance with those qualities, those attributes, those virtues. That means you have to take on that persona and be it. So just think about some of the most basic things: kindness, compassionate, generous, generosity, forgiveness, understanding, caring. I mean, these are things that come with my persona. But what are the qualities that you want to develop and cultivate within yourself? Not based on someone else's expectation, not based on pleasing someone else, not based on who your parents or your family members or your spouse or your siblings or your boss or your colleagues told you should be, or even your clients or students. But really deep within you, what will feel the most fulfilling and most rewarding to you, so that, yes, when you wake up in the morning, you feel good about yourself. That when you walk through your day, you are being maybe not perfect all the time. We're not there yet. Like, none of us are, to my knowledge, right? But the best that you can be, that you're walking your talk and living in accordance with what feels rightly aligned for you as a unique expression of an embodied being, a human being. Now, let me put some things in here, because we humans we are community oriented. We are not, for the most part, isolated beings. There's all kinds of science out there now that is, especially after the year 2020 and those years where people had so much isolation and had to use the next few years even to heal a lot of that isolation trauma. We are community oriented beings who prosper and do better generally when we have others around us that are supportive, uplifting, loving, etc. And indeed, if you're into the whole blue zones thing, right? If you've watched, it's a really good Netflix movie called The Blue Zones, but this is out there way before Netflix, right? You can do research on the blue zones, where the areas in the world where people live the longest. It's always baffled me that they don't seem to get it. Like, the one thing everyone in all the blue zone areas have in common is community. They feel that they belong to a community. This is where the people live, like, usually beyond 100, and the average age, the length of someone's age there is way beyond anywhere else, any other areas of the world. Those are called blue zones. And you can watch that movie and you can certainly learn more about it. But the one thing they all have in common, and I don't know if that's in that movie, but for years, scientists were studying the blue zones, and they'd be like, oh, it's the olive oil. Oh, it's the fish. Oh, it's the grass-fed beef. Like, no, that's not the one thing. They do have those things kind of in common, but the one thing they all have in common is community, that they matter. They feel like they matter. So with that, when you're thinking about who you want to be, you do want to consider that part, because you didn't really come here to live alone on a desert. Not really. Or in an isolated place. And trust me, because I've lived in a lot of isolated places in my life. I've spent a lot of time pretty isolated, more because I've just, as a soul's agenda, had a lot of, healing to do, energy work. And spiritual growth in this lifetime was the primary soul's agenda for me. But we're not meant to be isolated. So you do want to consider, who do I want to be with respect to relationship with others? Because the truth is, this is true for us. We all want to be loved. We all want to be liked. We all want to matter. And while you are the first and most important one who must love you, like you, and matter to you, and that is the first and most important relationship you have, is with yourself and your source, which is your divine source, your creator, your God, mother, father, all that is, spirit, the divine, however you uniquely identify that source, that is your primary relationship. Those are, you could say two, but they really are one, self and source. It's not separate from you. It's within you. It's part of you. And you're part of it. But other than that, who do you want to be in a relationship? And this is so important because you do want to be liked. And so I'm not asking you to become a people pleaser or to make yourself someone so that you will be liked, but I do invite you to consider the kinds of people that other people like to be near, because it matters. It matters to you if you care about relationships. So what are those qualities? Being reliable, being authentic, being sincere, being caring, considering others, really being curious about someone else's life and what matters to them and caring about other people, genuinely being enjoyable to be around in some way or another, being grateful. I will tell you, especially for those of you who are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, you know that your favorite clients, you know it. Come on. Your favorite clients are the ones who are grateful. Why? Because they're just so wonderful to work with. You're so happy. They're so happy. Everybody's happy. Of course. You love that. So I was at my Unity Church this morning, and the minister, the Reverend, was saying, yeah, be grateful because people want to be around grateful people. And I thought, that's so interesting that he's saying that. It is exactly what he's just mirroring. I can have a whole conversation on mirroring, but he's just mirroring what I was thinking in the last 24 hours, that I was going to do this, part of what I was going to do this podcast about, because people like to be around grateful people. It feels good. It feels good to be around people who are generally positive, not fake positive, not fake and phony, always positive, not real. No, you want authenticity. Okay, these are things I'm defining, but it's up to you to define for yourself. Who do you want to be? How do you want to express? You get to decide. I was recently at a business meeting for business entrepreneurs, and one of the people at the meeting, because we went around in sort of like a round table and said what we were working on. And one of the people in the meeting said that he was working on trying to figure out like how to define himself. And he didn't say this right away, but I'm psychic. So I don't remember exactly what his words were, but that's what he was saying without saying it. And so I said to him this very thing: you get to decide who you are, but you do have to actually be it. You can't say that you're generous and then be stingy. You can't say that you care and then don't care. You can't say that you're kind and then be rude to the waitress, right? You can't say that you're considerate and then be inconsiderate. If you're kind, you be kind. You develop and cultivate kindness anywhere, everywhere, anytime, every time you can, all the time until it is your persona. You work with the energy of divine kindness, which a lot of people don't know how to work with energy, but that is what I teach and share, and a huge part of what I do. So any quality that you want to be, any virtue you want to develop, any way that you want to see or perceive yourself, any way that you want to experience yourself, especially on your own, by yourself, so that you feel that energy of who you are, those qualities. And if you want anything in your life, let me table that for just a moment, where I was going to go there with that. But let me just say, develop it so that you're waking up in the morning feeling that way about yourself, so that you can walk through this life saying, I really am being best version of myself and still getting better. Still getting better. I used to have a friend, he passed away, but for many years he was a friend, and he used to, I'd always get on the phone with him, and I'd say, hey, how you doing? He goes, I'm doing great, but Lori, and he'd get really quiet for a second. He'd go, don't worry, it's about to get better. And he was just so positively uplifting all the time. And he was so inspiring when I was interacting with him. And I always remember, even after he passed, and I did connect with him in the non-physical after he transitioned, and he would say, "Don't worry." That's what I would hear him say even after he left. "Don't worry, it's about to get better. It keeps getting better, even over here." That's what he would say. So, okay. So the other piece I was going to say is just, you probably, if you're listening to me, already know this, but if you don't, let this be a wake-up call that if you want something in your life, you have to be it first. If you want kind people in your life, as an example, you have to actually be kind. If you want caring people or nurturing people in your life, or just if you want abundance or prosperity in you actually have to be that energy first, because it's not just basic law of attraction, although that is part of it. There are universal laws involved with this for sure, which they're involved with everything. But at the same time, it is just vibration, right? Which is, of course, that's part of what the laws uphold. But you are going to always attract the vibration of who you are into your life experience. And I hear this a lot in circles where women, I have some business acquaintance, colleagues and friends who are matchmakers, and they do a lot of helping you find your soulmate. And they tell me some of the experiences that their clients have, like, and they'll ask me, how can I help them better? Because I give coaching for them too. And one thing I always say is you have to you have to help your people to become the mate that they want to attract. You have to become the qualities, the virtues, and the behaviors that you want to attract. You have to start really being that and offering it into the world. If you want to fall in love with a man, then fall in love with every man, not in a romantic way, not in an inappropriate way, in a healthy way, that you can offer whatever qualities that you would offer within your energy, within your mind. Doesn't mean you do anything at all inappropriate, of course. It just means within yourself, decide that every man you meet will be a lovable man God that you will honor, respect, appreciate, value, love, bless, be kind to, recognize, listen to, validate, etc. Offer, and do it for women too. Vice versa. You understand. Do it for everyone, because you will attract into your life. It's not just law of attraction. It's law of vibration. It is just the nature of the reality we live in, because ultimately all are one, and you're always going to be in vibrational resonance with the energy that you are. So be who you can love, who you will fall in love with. Share that in the world and with others to the best of your ability. One last caveat on this before I wrap, and that's just to say that does not mean that you let someone abuse you because you want to love them. Those of us who are truly becoming more love in this lifetime, sometimes that can happen. I've definitely been there myself. I've allowed other people to take advantage of the kindness and the generosity and the love that I was offering. And I don't mean romantic love. I'm not talking about romantic or sexual love. I'm talking about godly love. It's so far beyond human languaging. I'm talking about the expression, the energy, the frequency of just being love. Okay, but beyond that, you're not meant to take abuse from someone. You're not meant to be taken advantage of, because self-love is part of it. And self-love means that you will not allow or tolerate someone abusing you or taking advantage of you, right? So I just want to put that in there, because a lot of times those of us who value that quality of love and kindness and forgiveness, all those qualities, we then, in our desire to offer it out into the world, there are plenty out there who will take advantage. So part of self-love is also knowing healthy and appropriate boundaries, healthy and appropriate no's, etc. So obviously we could spend a lot more time with this, and we do that. I always do that on my retreats and in the Sacred Visionary Mentorship. Of course, I've mentioned that before, and you're welcome to join us in those as well. But please, I hope this is helpful for you. Please let me know and stay in touch with me. Let me know, give me your feedback, and let me know what else you want to hear about and learn about, because we are all becoming more of the most magnificent, best, most brilliant versions of ourselves. And we get to decide in this new paradigm who we are, and we get to choose how we will behave and what is most important to us, how we will show up in the world, how we want to feel about ourselves. And yes, the kind of other experiences, the kind of experiences that we'd like to have with ourselves and with others, that's based on who we are. We cannot have experiences of loving kindness if we're not loving and kind. We cannot have experiences of forgiveness if we're not forgiving. We cannot have experiences of peace and or harmony if we're not peaceful and or harmonious within ourselves. So we must cultivate this from within. This is what the deep work is. In addition to clearing out all of that energetic blockages that might stand in the way, we bring forward the energy of what we decide and choose to be more of. And these are some of the divine virtues. I will do another podcast on virtues because such an amazing topic area, and it's related especially also to the animals. So for another time. For now, I'm going to sign off. I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sharing time with me. Thank you for being your most magnificent self. Thank you for being the spectacular, brilliant being that you truly are. And I will sign off for now, and I'll see you next time. Farewell for now. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening today. If you loved the show and if you benefited in any way, if it helped you to up-level or expand your consciousness, if you gained any new insights or ideas, if it made you think or become more aware, or if there were some strategies or intuition that you may have benefited from in any way, would you please do me 2 easy and simple favors? First, if you would be willing to leave a review, it would mean the world to me. I'd be so grateful. And second, if you're willing to share this show with anyone else who would benefit, you can either post it on your social media or just email it to someone and share it with another person or any other people. It would be so awesome. This kind of thing is so helpful in expanding consciousness on the planet and helping others to benefit from this kind of teaching, which just simply isn't generally readily available in the mainstream. So sharing it really helps others benefit and helps our planet evolve and awaken. Plus, expressing gratitude and generosity in this way will also expand your capacity to give and receive even more. Either way, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for participating and for sharing, and overall, just for being the magnificent, the spectacular, the brilliant, the fabulous, the wonderful you that you truly are, and for allowing yourself to be the very best version of you today and every day. All my love and gratitude to you.